Hello again. Cinematic Otaku Chris welcomes you back to another thrilling episode of the challenge that personally ranks horror franchises from best to worst. You know what I'm talking about. Franchise Frenzy. Here we are at part 4 this month. Hard to believe we're already getting into 2024 after the first 3 episodes we've covered in this ongoing challenge hosted by my good friend Joe the Horror Man. Last time I've discussed about part 3s, to which in my ranking for the last episode was a huge hit or miss mix, to which there were some good and some bad, even the neutral. However, we'll be exploring what Part 4 has to offer, in which I believe there were 4 of my selected franchises have finally reached to the end of my discussion in this ongoing series, to which the rest are still pressing on. And before I can get started, here is what I'd like to say. If you thought you've survived a trilogy of terror and all that was enough, well, there's always a catch when a 4th one is made just to please fans more. So get ready for 4 more, please, in this episode, because part 4 has finally arrived and is about to begin, as I'll be ranking, like usual, top to bottom, best to worst. I would like to start with number 1, as this should be a huge surprise to some fans out there in this franchise. Night of the Seagulls from 1975, the 4th entry of the Blind Dead series, tells about a medical couple moving into a village where at night strange people begin sacrificing young girls to those bloodthirsty Templar knights as they rise from the dead again. The only question is, can this medical couple solve the mystery and destroy those undead fiends once and for all? This is a huge recent first time viewing for me, as I like this one better than the Ghost Galleon, in my opinion, since we do get a lot more atmosphere as it spells some gothic vibes in regards to the previous 2, which consist of Tombs of the Blind Dead and The Return of the Blind Dead, basically. Oddly enough, the film's a lot tame on the gore, which you do see a little bit of blood in the film, but not unlike Return of the Evil Dead, aka Return of the Blind Dead, speaking of. Still keeps the viewers engaged with the intriguing themes it tackles, as with the previous entries, and the medical couple becoming strangers in a strange land, which is always my favorite theme setting, because you never know what certain or uncertain worlds you'll bump into. Funny, I should also mention to point out that Night of the Seagulls also has a tiny Lovecraftian vibe in regards to the bizarre cult sacrifices, and obviously that statue used during those rituals, which may fascinate some Lovecraftian fans, though. It's still a pretty good watch, As for if you're already acquainted with the Blind Dead series, or just any Spanish horror in general, I rate Night of the Seagulls quite high in this month's ranking, since it does bring back what true traditional elements a Blind Dead film has, with a tiny Lovecraftian touch, even though monsters were involved still. But hey, might be one of my new favorites in the series overall. Evil Dead, the remake from 2013. The beloved cult horror classic gets reimagined for the 21st century. Only this time, it's scarier and gorier than the original, while staying true to the original setting and keeping its macabre. Only this time, we have a final girl instead of final guy around. To which some fans may like this entry or not, depending on how passionate you are with the original film, and for those who've never seen the original. It's a hit or miss thing, and I know how I feel about remakes, but this is certainly a good remake I've enjoyed. I remember catching it when it was new to Starz, just a few months after the film came out in theaters, to which my brother and stepbrother caught on the big screen opening weekend. Fun fact, this remake was originally going to receive an NC-17 rating, but the MPAA instead chose a much simpler R-rated cut in order to remove some of the film's more extreme sequences, to which now you can find as the complete unrated cut available on either physical or digital media today. Quick fascinating part I'd like to point out and share. My brother and I would sometimes have an interesting conversation about that he read the original screenplay for the Evil Dead remake and would share his feelings about the final cut and the script. As for how it could have been better, yet, quick fascinating part I'd like to point out and share. My brother and I would sometimes have an interesting conversation about that he read the original screenplay for the Evil Dead remake and would share his feelings about the final cut and the script. As for how it could have been better, yet, I could perhaps agree with him on that, while I still liked the remake as is for now. Makes me picture on the more intense sequences if I were to read that as well. Nonetheless, I still rank the Evil Dead remake at this place high on Franchise Frenzy 4. Alien vs. Predator Requiem from 2007. Do you remember that final frame from the first film? Well, if round 1 was done and over with, whoever you rooted for, well, you got yourself round 2, because the clash between two of Fox's most iconic sci-fi creatures are at it again, in which this time those xenomorphs invade the Earth and cause carnage on a small town, while the Predator goes on another hunt to destroy them, but also something new and different and mixed tags along this time. I mean, this time you get a Pretian joining in the storyline, which is quite cool. I mean, looking like nothing from the final frame in Alien vs. Predator. Not a lot of people will agree on both Alien vs. Predator 1 and 2 being some of the best crossover films ever made. But still, it's a lot of fun I've had watching back when it was new to DVD, which I caught it on the big screen because I saw Alien vs. Predator when it was just new to the big screen. But hey, and as for I rate this one high in this month's ranking of Franchise Frenzy, yet there's more to cover on Alien vs. Predator Requiem in a future episode, because here in the Predator franchise there will be an official sequel to be covering in the next episode soon. So the wait will be over in discussing all things Predator.